You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. May is ALS Awareness Month, and I'm kicking off my fundraiser as a push athlete with the Kyle Peace Foundation, an organization that creates awareness and raises funds to promote success for people with disabilities through sports and beyond. I'm training toward Dobie 2027 during Walt Disney World Marathon Weekend in January. If you want to support, the biggest help is simple. Share my fundraiser link with one person who would care and consider donating using the link in the show notes. This series is about truth without flooding. Welcome back to Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy Patnode, school psychologist, parent coach, and yes, endurance athlete. In this episode, we're talking about the bedtime questions that land with a punch when the house is finally quiet, the lights are out, and your kids ask something like, "Are you going to die? Is something going to happen to you?" And here's my promise to you, my friends. By the end of this episode, you'll have kid-sized truth, not the whole ocean, and you'll know why these questions show up at bedtime, even if your kids' day seem fine, what to say the first time they ask, and what to say when they keep pushing, and one simple in-bed regulation move to help their bodies settle so everyone can actually get some sleep and rest. And I'm going to be upfront with you. You don't need perfect words. You need kid-sized truth, not the whole ocean. And before we jump into this episode, I want to share something personal because I'm not teaching this from a distance. This series is rooted in something I care deeply about and in my family's experiences with ALS. And it's also the why behind my decision to become a Dobie 2027 push athlete and fundraise for the Kyle Peace Foundation. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and let me tell you why this matters to me. May is ALS Awareness Month, and I'm kicking this month off with 3 mini episodes related to ALS. I'll be talking about things like how to have an honest talk about death and serious illness with kids, caregiver burnout parenting, and how to ask for help without feeling awkward. But before we get into the practical stuff, I want to do something a little bit more personal. Think of this as a chance to pull up a chair, grab your reheated coffee, or your emotional support water bottle, whatever you got, because I think it matters that you know why I'm so passionate about doing this series, why I'm talking about ALS and parenting and nervous systems and endurance and this fundraiser like it's all one story. For me, it is one story. My mom, Mimi, as my kids called her, had ALS. And ALS is one of those things that doesn't just happen to one person. It happens to the whole family system. It changes the emotional weather in a house. It changes the shape of time. And it changes what you think normal means. And I want to say this carefully because I'm not here to do a trauma memoir on my podcast. That's not what this is. But I am here to tell you the truth about what ALS taught me because it's the root system of how I show up as a mom, as a clinician, and as an endurance athlete. Now, ALS is a particular kind of grief. because it doesn't only ask you to grieve after someone is gone, it asks you to grieve in installments. And if you've lived anything even remotely like that, ALS, cancer, dementia, a chronic health condition, a long season where life keeps changing shape, you know what I mean. You lose things in pieces. A hug changes, a meal changes, a voice changes, a body changes, and you adjust. And then you adjust again, and then again, and again. It's not one dramatic moment. It's 100 quiet, relentless moments where you realize, oh, this is real. This is the new normal. And then it will be a new normal again. One of the things I still feel in my body is missing my mom's hugs. That sounds so small, almost too ordinary to name. But a mother's hug isn't just arms. It's a history. It's safety. It's the nervous system memory of being held by the person who knew you before you knew yourself. And ALS makes you notice the ordinary things you never thought you'd notice before. Dinner changed too. At first, dinner's just dinner. Sitting at the table. It feels like my house, like your kids at the time are like a baby and a toddler running around like amok, talking, normal family stuff. And then dinner becomes cutting food differently. And then it becomes helping more. And then it becomes feeding. And then it becomes a whole different set of realities that you didn't ask for and didn't want, and you still have to learn. And this is one of the things ALS taught me that I bring into parenting work all the time. Love keeps changing shape. And you don't get to opt out of the adjustments just because you're tired or scared. You learn to do the next thing because the next thing has to be done. And when life asks that of you long enough, something happens. You become very good at helping, maybe too good. You become the person who scans the room, anticipates needs, manages logistics, holds the emotional tone, keeps the whole machine running. From the outside, it can look like competence, like strength, like, wow, she's handling it. From the inside, it can feel really lonely because when you're the helper, people don't always realize you're also the one quietly absorbing the weight. And I think this is one of the most important nervous system truths that people miss about caregiving and grief. You can be doing all the right things and still be maxed out. You can love someone deeply and still hit your edge. Love does not erase limits. It doesn't. Caregiving is a season where your heart is big and your body is still a body with a bandwidth, with a stress response, with a threshold. And ALS made something else crystal clear to me. Kids are not just watching what's happening. They're tracking what gets named. They're tracking what gets avoided. They're tracking what happens in your face and in your voice and your body when something hard is in the room. Kids take in the emotional weather. And that matters because my kids were part of my mom's life. They saw her. They loved her. They were with her till the end. They saw the equipment that looked scary. Now my husband and I, we did our best to normalize it. We didn't treat it like a horror movie. We treated it like reality. Sometimes bodies need help, and we can be loving and steady inside those hard things and moments. But I want to be honest. Normalized doesn't mean no impact. It just means we're trying to give their nervous system a fighting chance because kids' brains are going to do what brains do. They're going to time travel. And that is why the hardest questions don't always show up when you're ready. They show up at bedtime. And if you're listening and nodding, you know exactly what I mean. Bedtime is when the house is quiet, the day is over, bodies slow down, and then a small voice will say something like, Mom, is something going to happen to you like Mimi? And that question is not really about medical facts. That question is love. That question is attachment. That question is their nervous system trying to get a guarantee. It's, are you here? It's, am I safe? It's, if something happens, who takes care of me? It's, can I survive the feeling of this? And I'll tell you the truth. There have been nights where I've said the right words, calm, steady, regulated, and then I've walked out of the room, found myself hiding in my laundry room, crumpling to the floor, and watching the washer spin the clothes in the spin cycle, and having to just breathe and ground myself in that moment. Because my grief lives in my body too. I think that's an important thing for parents to hear, especially for parents who hold themselves to impossible standards. You can be a capable adult and still get flooded. You can have training and expertise and still have a nervous system. You can be the helper and still need help. That's not failure, that's biology. And that's the clinician part of me now, the part that refuses to flatten people into one moment. Because here's the truth I've learned through ALS and parenting and being a human. Sometimes what looks like a behavior problem is a nervous system problem. Sometimes what looks like a parenting failure is a capacity problem. Sometimes what looks like they're not trying is actually they can't access the skill right now. And I became obsessed with this distinction, access versus ability, because ALS forces you to watch a body lose access to what it used to do effortlessly. It forces you to stop moralizing capacity. It forces you to see in real time that can is not always a character trait. Sometimes it's physiology. Sometimes it's fatigue. Sometimes it's a system under load. And I don't say that to be dramatic. I say that because it has made me a different clinician. It's made me more allergic to shame. It's made me more committed to steady truth instead of silence, because silence doesn't create safety. It creates confusion. Kids feel the tension and then their brains fill in the blanks, and the blanks are usually scarier than reality. So when I say kid-sized truth, not the whole ocean, I'm not saying it to be cute. I'm saying it because I learned it the hard way. And now we're in this other chapter of my life where endurance is part of the story. Endurance for me became one of those places I could metabolize my grief. Not because I'm trying to prove I can suffer. I'm not interested in suffering as a personality trait. I'm not collecting hardship like Pokemon cards. Endurance, especially endurance events, gives me a container. It gives me pacing language. It gives me the next marker. It gives me a way to take something overwhelming and bring it down to what is the next doable step. And that's the same math as parenting through a hard season. You don't get through a hard season by sprinting every day. You don't get through them by pretending you're not tired. You don't get through them by refusing support and calling that strength because you did it all by yourself. Real endurance requires pacing, fuel, recovery, support, a plan, adjustments. And this is a key, repair. One bad mile doesn't mean the whole race is ruined. One hard bedtime doesn't mean you're failing. One sharp sentence doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means your nervous system hit a limit. And the question becomes, what's the next marker? What's the next honest step? And that brings me to the Kyle Peace Foundation. I'm training for Dopey 2027 with the Kyle Peace Foundation as a push athlete, which means I'll be pushing another athlete in a wheelchair over the course of 4 days, covering close to 50 miles with a team as part of Run Disney Race Weekend in January. And I want you to hear this clearly. For me, that decision is not separate from my mom. It's not separate from ALS. It's not separate from grief. It's not separate from how I parent or how I practice. It's all one story. ALS changes how you understand bodies. It changes how you understand ability. It changes how you understand the privilege of movement. And becoming a push athlete shifts endurance from me versus the course to something I care about even more. Shared access, a shared start line, a shared finish line. It's me putting my body behind a belief that inclusion and dignity matter, that people deserve to be seen and supported in real life, not just in theory. I also want to say this because I'm sensitive to it, and maybe you are too. I'm not turning my mom's story into marketing. That is not what this is. I'm not interested in some sort of inspirational, polished grief content. Like, oh, look how far I've come. That's not my plan. That is not my vibe. Instead, this is me trying to let love move. This is me trying to live one coherent truth. Love asks something of us. And sometimes love looks like telling the truth gently. Sometimes love looks like lowering demands in a heavy season. Sometimes love looks like asking for help without making it weird. And sometimes love looks like using the strength you have, your body, your voice, your platform, to widen the circle for someone else. And that's what this series is all about. Yes, this is deeply personal for me, but it's not only about me. Because if you're listening and your family is carrying something heavy, illness, grief, burnout, a kid who's struggling, a season that feels like too much, I want you to feel included here. I want to give you a hug and say, I'm here with you. You're not alone. They're different details and same math. You don't need perfect words. You need one steady sentence, one small plan, one tiny win you can actually do when you're tired and at maximum capacity. And you deserve support. So that's my story. And that's why it matters to me. Now that you know the why, let's get into episode 1 of this mini series about what do I say at bedtime when my kid asks the hard questions. I want to normalize why bedtime turns kids into these tiny little human philosophers and why your own nervous system reacts so fast when the questions hit. Okay, bedtime. That's where the deep questions show up, like they've been waiting all day. It's lights out. We finished reading our last book for the night. I'm doing that last sweep as a parent where I check the water bottle, the night light, one more hug and kiss. And my 8-year-old's voice gets small in the dark. She might say something to me like this: Mom, is something going to happen to you like Mimi? And my body does that thing where my chest gets tight and my brain time travels to when my kids were 3 and 6, when we were at the end stages of my mom's journey with ALS. Now my kids are 11 and 8, and they loved my mom. We called her Mimi, and they were with her until the end. They saw the equipment, the wheelchair, the feeding tube, the Toby. My partner and our family, we normalized it as much as we could, and still, their brains do what brains do. They tried to protect them with a worst case movie at 9:47. And if your version isn't ALS, stay with me. Your hard season might be a newborn who never sleeps, a kid with anxiety, a parent who's sick, a marriage that feels heavy. Different details, same math. Here's the headline for today, the thing I want you to remember. Kid-sized truth, not the whole ocean. Most of us as parents in that bedtime moment swing between two extremes. One extreme is the forever promise. No, nothing will happen, don't worry. And the other is the flood, because our fear as parents is loud. And we start over-explaining, oversharing, trying to get ahead of every possible what if. And then we feel stuck because we're thinking, if I'm honest, I'll scare them. But if I reassure them, I'll be lying. So here's the middle path. We want to have truth, steadiness, a plan, and connection. And this is why bedtime is such a hot spot. Bedtime is when brains do inventory. During the day, kids have distraction. School, friends, extracurriculars. At night, things get quiet. And their nervous system goes, okay, now we can feel the scary stuff. Bedtime is when brains time travel. It's not manipulation. It's not drama. It's a nervous system looking for certainty, connection, and a plan. Also, bedtime is where every child becomes a tiny little philosopher. It's just how it goes. So when your kid asks, are you going to die? They're usually not asking for a medical lecture. They're asking, are you here? Am I safe? Who takes care of me if something scary happens? Can my body calm down again? So here's a line you can borrow that keeps you from oversharing. I'm going to answer your question, and I'm not going to add extra scary details. My job is to tell the truth in kid-sized pieces. Summer should feel easier, but for a lot of families, it gets messy, fast, like real fast. There's snacks, screens, sibling fights, boredom, reading battles, late bedtimes, and suddenly parents become the whole operating system. That's why I'm hosting Summer Without the Spiral on Thursday, May 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 1-hour parent workshop to help you build a simple summer plan for learning, play, screens, and sanity. We'll talk about how to prevent the summer slide without turning summer into school, what counts as learning, and how to use tiny wins so your family has a plan you can return to when summer gets wobbly. When you sign up, you'll get access to the live workshop, the replay if you can't make it live, and a printable summer planning guide, also known as your Summer Command Center, to help you map out routines, screen expectations, reading goals, boredom ideas, and weekly resets. You'll leave with a simple framework for the 4 summer anchors. This workshop is free to attend. I'm simply asking families to consider making a donation to my Kyle Peace Foundation fundraiser as I train for Dobie 2027 as a push athlete. Register using the link in the show notes. Okay, now I'm going to give you the actual words that you can borrow from me. Here's the first version. It's simple and steady. If your kid says, "Is something going to happen to you like Mimi?" you can say something like this: "Thank you for telling me that worry. That's a big one. And this part matters." You can pause, put your hand on their back, one slow breath, because your nervous system goes first. You can say something like, "I'm healthy right now. My body is working the way it's supposed to." It makes sense your brain goes there because Mimi was sick and you saw how hard that was. And here's what I can promise you: you are taken care of and you are very loved. You are not alone with big fears. Do you want a hug, a few facts, or do you want me to sit with you while your body settles? Now, if they keep pushing, and they will sometimes, here's the sticky worry version. If your kid says, "But what if you die?" you say, "Okay, this is your brain trying to get a guarantee. I can't give a 100% guarantee about the future. Nobody can. But I can give you what your brain actually needs tonight. One, I'm healthy right now. Two, you are taken care of no matter what." And let me make this really clear. And we're not doing a feared TED Talk at 8:45. We're helping your body settle so your brain can rest. And just to keep the message clear, we want a kid-sized truth, not the whole ocean. Okay, here's the part that makes the words land. One of the most important things we can do for kids is help their bodies settle. I like to use a technique called 2 hands and 3 breaths. And this is the part that makes the words we say land with our kids. You might say, "Put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Feel my hand on your back." 3 slow breaths. In, 1, 2, 3. Out, 1, 2, 3. Then you anchor this action with words. You can say, "Your body is safe in this bed. The worry can wait until morning." Now, if your child saw the hospital or hospice equipment, sometimes that image is what gets replayed. Here's the one sentence I'd use. Sometimes your brain replays the equipment because it looks scary. Equipment is there to help a body, never to hurt it. And it's okay if your brain remembers it. And you go back to connection. I'm here. Let's be real. Sometimes it can go sideways. They might start crying. Maybe they start crying harder. You might say something like, "I'm here. Your feelings are allowed. We're not adding scary details. We're settling your body." Now, they might ask you again about it tomorrow, and you just give the same answer. Repetition is regulating. As a parent, if you find yourself feeling flooded having these conversations, you're 100% allowed to engage in some rest and recovery for yourself. Step out for 30 seconds, have some water, take a breath, put a hand on your heart and practice some deep breathing. You might be like me, who hides in my laundry room for 1 minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. I might snag a Girl Scout cookie if I still have them in my laundry room. And once you feel regulated, then you can come back and repair. And you can say something like this to your kids: "That feeling, those worries, that hit my heart too. I'm here with you." Now let's talk tiny wins. Remember, pick one is enough. Tiny win number 1, pick one anchor phrase, like, "I'm healthy right now and you're taken care of." Tiny win number 2, use the boundary. Kid-sized pieces only. They don't need the whole ocean. Tiny win number 3, offer the choice: hug, facts, or quiet company. Tiny win number 4, do the 2 hands, 3 breaths after your answer. Pick one is enough. I appreciate you being a member of the Psych to Parent community and listening to these episodes. I have 3 favors to ask. Favor number 1, share this episode with one parent friend. If you know a parent who's in a heavy season, whether it's illness, grief, caregiver fatigue, big bedtime worries, send them this episode and say, "Listen to the kid-sized truth part and the bedtime script. It gave me words." Favor number 2, if this episode brought up big feelings and you don't know what to do with them, sharing or donating is one small way to turn love into action. Click the fundraiser link in the show notes and donate to the Kyle Peace Foundation. Even a small gift helps create more inclusive start lines and finish lines through sports and beyond. Favor number 3, If Psych to Parent has helped you feel less alone or helped you walk into hard conversations steadier, would you take 30 seconds to leave a review? Reviews are how the show finds the parents lying in bed thinking, please don't let tonight be the spiral. Today, we made bedtime questions about serious illness less scary and more workable. You got the middle path between forever promises and flooding. Kid-sized truth, a promise of care, a sticky worry script, and a 2 hands and 3 breaths so your child's body can actually settle. We'll keep making the homeschool puzzle less mysterious together. One kid-sized truth at a time, one bedtime brain time traveler reminder, one hug or fax or quiet company choice, one I'm healthy right now and you're taken care of anchor line, one we're not doing a fear TED Talk boundary, one 2 hands and 3 breaths reset in the dark. So you can tell the truth without dumping the whole ocean on a kid. And the next time you sit at that tiny round table in that tiny chair, remember, schools have expertise, and you are the expert on your child. Your insight is not extra, it's essential. You're not behind, you're building a partnership, and you're building skills, yours and theirs. One small, doable step at a time. Until next time, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white-knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low-stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psychtoparent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big-feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.